Ambition is not a dirty word. Impact is not synonymous with struggle. In fact, massive impact is absolutely possible with joy, fun, and sublime integrity. I'm Bianca Best, author and founder of The Burnout Business, and this is the Big Impact Show, where success meets grace. I'm absolutely delighted to have here with me today on the Big Impact Show the force, the powerhouse, the beautiful, radiant soul who is Juanita Ingram.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be here with you today. We've had a great day already.
We have had a phenomenal day, haven't we?
Yeah.
I have had the privilege of being shown around the Dress for Success warehouse, retail outlets, and learning so much more about the business that I'm so proud to be an ambassador of. But today is very much about you, Juanita. And you have achieved just a list of accolades that I can hardly even remember to recite back. But it's everything from Mrs. Universe to being an incredible mum, to being a prestigious, well-respected attorney, to being the founder of Dress for Success in Greater London, and just so much more. And I've just found out that you even have an Amazon Prime series. You've recorded 2 seasons. You're a global phenomenon.
Oh, thanks. No.
And you're just gorgeous inside
thanks.
And out. And I have just enjoyed this morning, us being together. And I'm so honored that you're here today in the studio and that we're having this conversation.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I'm just so thrilled, and the way you've plugged in for Dress for Success has just been amazing. So thank you so much.
Well, I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about the charity and the overall mission, but for me, it is so aligned with my work, my purpose, and everything that I stand for. And so it's an absolute privilege to be part of the journey and able to contribute.
Thank you so much.
So let's go back to the start of you. And I'd love to learn a little bit about your childhood and where this woman, this powerhouse that is this gorgeous soul in front of me began. Where were you inspired by life, by your parents, to step up and step out into the world as you have done so magnificently? Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, sure. I'm from Tennessee, so Chattanooga, Tennessee in America. Small town, and grew up, with a lot of great family members around me. I had a great tribe. My grandparents helped raise me. I'm named after my grandmother.
Lovely.
My grandmother's middle name is Juanita, and she epitomized everything that was womanhood to me. And she really helped raise me. My mom is a musician, so I grew up always performing, but always having this balance. I blame my parents for this duality. So my dad is like, he's an executive, and he was a vice chancellor at a university, finance guy, and just, PhD in divinity and PhD in higher ed.
Divinity.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Divinity.
So I also grew up in the church. My mom was a minister of music in the church, but she plays every instrument. And so I grew up with this sort of balanced view. So I played 5 instruments. I was in the theater, but then I also wanted to be an accountant. I wanted to be a lawyer, and just really had a balanced view of life. And coming from place, I tell people all the time, like Chattanooga's magical, and that you had this tribe of people and community that really supported you. But when I was growing up, people asked me all the time, did I think about doing pageants as a child? And I didn't.
No?
No, not at all. 2 reasons. One, I was busy doing other things. So I really was in the band, in the marching band. I was drum major in high school. And so I was playing the piano, and I couldn't go outside and play until I was finished with my piano lessons. And so I was much more focused on different things. And I didn't see a lot of women of color in pageantry growing up. I remember when Vanessa Williams won. And I just didn't think about it. I didn't see myself in that space. And I honestly didn't give much thought to it because I was busy thinking about other things. I was on mock trial and, doing all these other things, and had parents that poured into me more in a substantive way than thinking about the exterior of how you look or anything like that. It's not that I didn't think I was attractive. I just didn't have that experience of turning around in the mirror and saying, oh, I didn't have that.
What were your big dreams as you were little then? What were you looking to splash out into the world?
I liked the idea. I always wanted to be a lawyer since like the 8th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, isn't that amazing when you're inspired as a kid and you know what you want to do?
Yeah.
That's incredibly...
Well, and I had this duality. So I wanted to be in accounting because it was simplistic. Like, I like money. And so I used to have like this cash register set, like toys when I was growing up. And I used to have this whole, like the whole setup of a grocery store, and I would make my parents come through and I would ring them up and I would add up all the things. I thought that was accounting. Is not accounting. And so, but I wanted to be an accountant. So I thought, and then in high school, I had wonderful teachers and counselors and guidance counselors. And then I was on the mock trial team, and I got best oral advocate my senior year, regionally in the competition. So I thought, I want to be a lawyer because I want to help people and I want to help people solve their problems.
Okay,
so
and you knew that from a young age.
I knew it from that, yeah.
So you had that real heart, altruism, that love for humanity and a desire to really make impacts that way?
Yes, and my parents were really big on education. So both of my mother was a school teacher for 32 years. My dad was in higher ed, and he was a vice chancellor at a university and really focused on education. So I was always learning and always excited about learning. I started out in theater though when I was 9 because my mom is, she's the artsy one. And so she was the one that was just like, it doesn't matter what grades you make, you made an A in music. That's all that matters.
All about performance.
Yeah, all about performance. She's like, I don't care what you made in math. You got the ribbon in the art contest. Yeah. So that's all that matters. So there was this balance that I had growing up.
It's a blend of the creative and the academic.
Yes.
Now that's interesting because actually so often what we see today is children divided into you're in the academic camp or you're in the creative camp.
Yes.
But it sounds like actually you were able to embrace both sides.
I was early on, and then I think as we start adulting in life and society, they do put you in a box. And so the boxes came later. Okay. But at least I had the foundation of freedom. Yeah. And I think that played a big part as I became an adult, shifting into different lanes. That was very natural to me. Yeah. But it's not so natural to be a multi-hyphenate is common now. It wasn't so common 20 years ago. Yeah. And to some people it looked flighty, like, since when did you start writing books? And since when did you start acting? And I'm like, but I always did that. It was just different seasons in life. Yeah. So and
the blend of your parents is so interesting because I come from a mum who is from a line of musicians, singers, stage performers, a dad who's an academic, they're all teachers. Yeah. So really similar. So I understand that blend. Yes. And actually in business it ends up becoming quite an asset to have the academic, strategic mind, but then the creativity to be able to innovate and the ability to communicate and inspire. There's a real gift there, and you're clearly someone who's embraced that.
Yes, and it helps you, I think, to solve problems and to think outside of the box, because all the answers aren't going to always be linear. And so, but I do think it takes a process to embrace that, because sometimes when people meet you in one particular season, in a particular lane, they meet you where you are. They don't know all of you. Yeah. And when you're introducing them to all of your different sides, it may be a shocker because maybe they have 3 sides and you have 6. Or they have 2 and you have 4. And so it's the limitations we put on ourselves, but sometimes the external conversations of limitations that we don't allow ourselves to be full.
And do you think in that realm sometimes it's intimidating to others that you have the depth and the breadth?
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's because people don't stop to ask how. And don't realize that you didn't do all those things in the same season. Yeah. So I'm big on seasons. Yeah. Even in the multi-aspects of self, it's not always time to bring every aspect of self in every season. So when I was a new mom and practicing law, that's all I did. And that was, on a good day, if I showered, I'm winning. Yeah. that was all that I needed to do in that season. I didn't write books and I didn't go back into acting. And then when I stepped away and started living abroad and found the time, it was a different season to inject a different side of me and go back to certain things that were common to me, new to others. but very normal for
Yeah.
me. And it was different seasons. I didn't do it all at once.
I love that, thinking about life as different seasons. So let's talk about the season of your corporate ascendancy.
Yes.
Incredibly successful. So you've shifted from the blend of the sort of musical creativity at school into more of the academic lane.
Yes.
You've managed to become very successful in law. You're working as an attorney.
Yes.
And accelerating up through the company. And then you have your first child. And that was quite a challenging period in terms of the adjustment of honouring your values and stepping into this very important, beautiful new season whilst maintaining the corporate identity.
Yeah.
Can you just share with our viewers and listeners a bit about that season?
It was a challenge, and it was 17, 18 years ago. And so, and of course in the US, and laws had just come into place in terms of even corporate lactation rights. And, in America, we're a little bit different in terms of maternity leave. We typically get 6 weeks. Sometimes you may stretch it to 10 or 12, but that's it.
And that is going to make a lot of viewers across Europe wince.
I know.
Because a year is really commonplace.
Yes. Well, when I moved here, my daughter was 3, my son was 15 months. And I learned that in your fact, I was like, what do you mean you get a year?
Yeah.
What? I was like, oh my gosh. But in that space of time, I was practicing law. I was in-house counsel, and, really had a hard first year at motherhood because I had moved to another state. And so I didn't really know what trailing spouse was and what trailing spouse syndrome was, but leaving the familiar and going into a new space, and you leave behind your tribe and your support system. I talked about how my grandparents helped raise me. I didn't have grandparents. I didn't have family. I didn't have aunts and uncles and cousins and just somebody hold the baby while you take a shower. Simple things that you take for granted. And I remember nursing my first year, and it was 2:00 in the morning. I was nursing my daughter and drafting a contract with the other hand. My husband was getting a corporate MBA. He was at Duke. I was by myself, and I remember crying in that moment, like, oh my God, what have I done? And so I don't like to paint a picture like, oh yeah, I breezed through it. No, it was hard.
Yeah.
And so, but you do it as most working moms do, and there are good seasons and there are tough moments. And then it was so my daughter was born in 2008, and the economic crisis of '08 hit in the U.S. And I found myself, I don't know how I entered into this practice of law in this area. There are many areas you can practice in. I was a JD MBA, so I had my MBA and my JD at the same time, my law degree at the same time. So I was always in business law, but I found myself in retail and real estate. So I was with a mall developer, and I was like, how did I find myself in this? And the economy is collapsing, and the two hit areas, retail and real estate. So everyone around me started getting fired, and I should have taken that as a clue. And my entire legal department was like, we don't have anybody to work with anymore. That's strange. And then one day my boss called me in, and they were doing redundancies, really of the whole department. But he told me, I'm putting you in the first wave because I was really disappointed that you decided to have a child. She wasn't even 1 year old yet. And he told me, you were supposed to be my protege. That's why I hired you. You've only been here for 2.5 years. I didn't feel like you had been here long enough. And I didn't like that you had a child. And so I'm putting you in the first wave because he was disappointed. And he said, and the ramp up time of you coming back, because I'd had a very hard pregnancy. I was on bed rest for 3 months towards the end of my pregnancy, and had a very hard pregnancy. My daughter was fine, but it was hard. And then my doctor, because it was so hard, had written me for 10 whole weeks of maternity leave instead of 6. And he said the ramp up time of you coming back was just really disappointing.
So your boss was really harboring resentment about the fact that you didn't bounce back after 6 weeks, but you took 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And he considered that
it's interesting when womanhood is injected, especially when you're in a profession that tends to be male dominated. And they can look at you and see you as competent and capable as long as you don't have to be a woman. So my womanhood was injected when I became pregnant, and it was a weird reaction. Weird in the sense that his daughter and I were the same age. She was also an attorney, and she worked at a law firm. She was also having a baby. She had a baby 2 months before me. He was a proud grandfather. It was great for her, but not for me. And so it was just weird, but it really, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And it taught me in that moment a couple of things. One, in the corporate space and landscape, just how you can contribute and you can give and give and give. And it's not true for all companies, but for the large majority of them, the bottom line is the bottom line. And no matter how much you contribute sometimes, no matter how great you are, various reasons, now this was economy driven, but the wave in which I found myself in the impact was very personal, and had nothing to do with my competency as an attorney.
Yeah.
I had perfect performance reviews. It was just, he didn't like it. And so, it also taught me tenacity and how it felt to want to work and not be able to. And after a while, even though you know that it's not you, it's the economy, the world that you're living in, it took me 11 months to find my next job.
Yeah.
And after a while, you start to wonder what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
All of your network and the people that are like, if I hear of anything, I'll let you know. Silence, isolating.
Very hard not to take redundancy personally.
Yes.
However much the macroeconomic position reassures you, it's not personal.
Yes.
But you experienced in that moment a very personal slight.
Yes.
I want to talk about the redundancy period generally, but just before we do, in that moment where you realized there is your boss who presumably has been a mentor, a guide, and somebody that you have placed faith and trust into, you have given your honor, you've worked hard. I have loved our conversation. I would like to close with, what is your definition of success?
It changes every season in terms of the tangible, in terms of outcomes. I'm taking on different projects, different aspects of life, but I think undergirding everything, success is joy. And having joy in every stage, in every season, and ultimately understanding that you are never missing out. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, even in the tough seasons. I look at Dress for Success, we're not a faith-based organization by any means, but for me, the work has always been ministry. And being qualified to minister to women in particular ways, I would have never had that had I not been made redundant. It qualified me. So even when you think that you're taking a misstep or that bad things are happening or challenging things are happening to you, it's all happening for a reason. You're not missing out on anything. You're not losing anything. Even in the challenges, it's giving you something back. If you take a minute and take stock, as long as you have breath, only things that aren't growing are things that are dead.
Yeah.
Trees grow. Everything grows. So as long as you have breath, you're growing, you have purpose. But allowing yourself to give yourself permission to do the things that fuel you and to find the joy and the purpose in what you're doing, you're supposed to do exactly what you're doing.
Amen to that. I think it's simple, isn't it? It really is simple. Follow your joy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure having this conversation, diving into your world. Thank you for wearing pink and being so utterly on brand.
Thank you.
It's really just an honor to have you here in the studio today. Thank you for coming on the show.
It's been a joy being here, and thank you, one, for creating this platform so that we can come on and have these type of dialogues, but thank you for just being you and for being so willing to pour into the women at Dress for Success. I can't wait to work with you. We're just getting started. It's going to be amazing. We need you. They need your voice. Thank you. So this is
my
great.
pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I can't wait to get stuck in. Thank you.
Yes.